Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel. This is a simple tutorial on using the Blender 3D modeler in creating a rigged cube, or sort of a simple tower that wobbles in an animation using the actions editor, creating basically two actions and exporting it to the Unity 3D games engine. On the way, I'll show you how to sort of a simple extrude and showing the edges, or the lines, the links between the vertices, so that it's easier to model. And also using the Armature, the dope sheet, and particularly the actions editor for creating sequences of animation that you can export and use in various games engine, but particularly for the Unity games engine. So this is a Blender cube as a default, as you always load up in the Blender games engine. I'm going to pull it up slightly, and note that when you model anything in Blender, you can always take away the perspective by pressing the numpad 5 and pressing either 1 showing the side view, 3, okay, 7, 6, 5 sort of a rotation. But anyways, we're basically going to use the 3. But if you have the perspective on, it's going to look like that. But to look at it from the side, you basically take away the perspective and having pressing the numpad 3. Okay, but let's do that later. So the first thing is to extrude or extend this cube to make it something higher. By pressing tab, we get into the edit mode. Okay, or we could use that. Okay, in my other tutorials I showed you how to do that. So, and I'm going to press Control Tab now, changing it to the face. And I'm going to scroll out slightly, pull up. Okay, and the way to subdivide this elongated default cube is to press Control R, and using the scroll mouse, we're basically scrolling up, down to increase or decrease the segments. Okay, now note that the more segment you have, the animation is going to be banded much more smoother than if you have very little segments. Okay, so if my segment is a lot, then when I use the rig, the bones to bend it, it's going to look much smoother. So I'm going to keep it at that. And the next thing is to to show the edges. So if I go back to the object mode, okay, from the edit mode to the object mode, pressing tab again, you really can't see the segments. So what we're gonna have to do is to go to the object. Okay, you have this selected, go to the object and switch on the wire, okay, so that we can see that. But this is I don't know why Blender only allows showing through by having another checkbox of the information here. So to look at the box information, we press N. Okay, and on the display you have to switch on all edges. Okay, they could have just made it one action, one wire checkbox to show it, but I don't know why they do that. So that's in the display, and this is basically the transform, showing various information about this object. Okay, we'll press N again to remove it. So now that we whether we are selecting other objects or not, we can now really see the edges. Okay, that makes it much easier to model sometimes. Now the next step is to create an armature that that we can use for this object. Now my cursor is everywhere except at the center of this cube. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to put this cursor right at the center, so I can create the armature at the center of this object. Now the way to do that is to press Shift S. Once you've selected this, press Shift S. So you want the cursor to go to the selected object or the active object. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the selected, and that's the cursor. So anything I create will be at the center of that object. So press Shift A. I'm going to create an armature single bone inside, residing in here. Now notice that because we are not looking through transparent wireframe, we want this to be shown through, and the only way to do that is either through making it the scene a wireframe, the viewport a wireframe shading, or actually making this object an X-ray. So when I check the X-ray box, and I go back to the solid, I can actually see through, so I can model this. The first thing now, after we've set up the views, is to enlarge this. So press S for scale, pull it up slightly. I'm not going to have a lot of segments, so maybe just a few. And now let's go back to a viewport from looking from the side and pressing, that's numpad 3 and numpad 5 to remove the perspective view. So in order to make more bones out of this original bone, we want to get into the edit mode, and that's either through tab or pressing the edit mode. Okay, and and it's the same thing, extruding. You can extrude it by pressing E and confining it, pressing Z, confining it to the Z axis going up. E Z, pressing E, pressing Z, pressing E, pressing Z, pressing E, pressing Z, and click. Okay, now we have, going back to the perspective, press numpad 5. We have, a proper setup of the cube, and also at any point, we can actually going into the edit mode, control tab, selecting the faces, we can actually extrude. Okay, have an X mirror. Okay, well, we don't need that. We can actually extrude press E to extrude, sort of making a hand, and that actually makes it easier. Okay, so the reason I've created that, okay, well, we're gonna extrude this so it looks like sort of a fork tower. It doesn't mean anything, but it's just a demonstration of how we can paint the vertices later. So you can even select this, press tab, select this node, and yes, click the X mirror and press Shift E. Oops. Okay, so that's the X-axis, right? Okay, so we've done something wrong. We could have just okay, let me just show you. Press Shift E. Okay, Shift E basically mirrors the selection, so we could have just mirrored this in the X-axis, I don't know, and rotate it Z-axis. No, it's not gonna work. So we made a mistake. Okay, let's Control Z and go back. Oh, no. Hang on a minute. Okay, Right, what we're going to do is, because I'm just going to show you, this is in the z-axis, so what we can do is, hang on a minute, I'm going to select this, go into the edit mode, sort of delete all this and recreate it on the other side. Okay, I'm pressing B for window selection. Okay, delete faces. Okay, I'm gonna have to just switch to the vertex mode and recreating the faces. Selecting this, pressing F, selecting this, pressing F, and this is one of the useful tools for creating faces. When you make a mistake. So the x-axis is there. So what we want to do is to extrude. Okay, let's just do this. I'm going to extrude this side. Okay, my grid has been switched on, so I don't want that. And again, Control R. Okay, so that's sort of equivalent. Okay, and at any point I can vertex. I can change it, right? Okay, I can start changing the mesh, and it wouldn't affect the bones yet, because nothing's been attached. So I'm going to just sort of create something, sort of a very different shape, as if this is a human figure. Okay, I know this is bad modeling, but okay. Sort of like a human figure, anyways. Okay, so now that we've got this, in the x-axis, the red axis, we can go into the edit mode, select that, and press Shift E, and pressing X to confine it to an x-axis, and that will create, a bone for these segments over here. Okay, so now that we're ready, well, actually, I don't know if we can just scale this. Okay, it doesn't matter, that should work. Okay, the next step is to connect the mesh to the bone. So I'm selecting the mesh first, and then selecting, pressing Shift and using the right mouse button to select this. So select the mesh first before selecting the bone. After these two has been selected in sequence, you press Control P, and you set the parent in the armature deformation with automatic weights, and that makes it really easy. Okay, but professional modeler and animator, they will create their own weights, but I can show you a little bit, a snapshot later. So I'm pressing Control P, and then clicking this, and now the whole mesh, if you click this button, object data, all the bones has been connected. Okay, right here. If we change it to weight pane, you can see that this bone is the first one we created, and then we extruded this. Okay, so every bone has a certain weight associated with the meshes. You know, the redder it is, you know, the harder the weight. You know, that means it's affecting it harder. Okay, and that should, you know, that should really cover, okay, the whole lot. But if you find any problems, for example, you know, one of the meshes, let's say the head, you know, aren't really affecting, you know, and you want this, you know, this to be redder, you can always paint it, because this, you know, in the weight paint you can always set the strength, you know, and the radius. You know, the radius is this little circle here. You know, you can increase the radius, you can decrease the radius. You can start painting, okay, so that you associate, you know, these weights to the whole head, so it doesn't, right, it doesn't wobble. The head doesn't wobble, it's solid. Okay, and that sort of does the job. And we want the neck to be slightly stretchable. Okay, so that's a very basic look at you know, rigging it, you know, and weight painting it. Now let's change back, and I'm going to select this bone and go to the pose mode. Now see, when I turn this, because, you know, because the whole head is so associated with the bones, it's you know, it's really moving it, but the neck is wobbly because the neck is also connected to this bone. Okay, and that's really good. Okay, say hi. Okay, so now there is an auto IK, okay, you know, associated with this bone. Okay, and it's auto IK. So in the post mode, I'm going to switch on auto IK, and when I switch on auto IK, it will really move it. Okay, it will really, you know, change the, you know, the movement, and that's inverse kinematics. You can look up the web to see what it is, but it's basically, you know, allowing it works the same way as our body. Okay, when we move our finger and point it in a certain location, direction, our whole hand moves with it. So it's inverse kinematics. Okay, and our animation is quite well set up now. Okay, because, you know, everything is just moving really nicely. So the next step is to animate this. Okay, you know, remember to save this. Okay, I'm gonna save it in my desktop. Okay, or rather my documents, and in this test folder is where I saved my you know, my Unity file. So I'll make this sort of a dummy. Okay, a dummy, and that's just the Blender file. Okay, we're gonna have to export this later into an FBX file, but I'll show you how. Okay, so this is done, and the next thing we want to do is to split the screen. So move your mouse cursor over here, right mouse click, split area, and this is the timeline, but the timeline won't be useful to us. What we want to do is to change this, you know, this splitted view into a dope sheet. Okay, and the dope sheet is basically, you know, an animation sequence, you know, allowing us to create keyframes, just like the traditional animators. They create keyframes, you know, from one frame to the other frame, and allow the apprentice animator to fill in the blanks. So one action may be, you know, here, and you want to pull the other action here, creating new keyframes, you know, to have this hand going up. Okay, and the, you know, well, basically Blender will fill in the rest for you. I'm going to press Ctrl Z and let it go back. Okay, I'm going to save this. Okay, so I've got my dope sheet, but what we want to do is not to use the dope sheet, but to use the actions editor, because action editor allows us to export the actions, you know, as it is into games engine, like the Unity 3D engine. So I'm going to go to actions. Now I'm going to have to create the first action because there's none here, so I'm clicking new, and I want the first action to be idle. You know, all games, you know, the characters, they have an idle state. You know, usually they breathe and then go up and down. You know, usually they, you know, they breathe and go up and down. I can't do that. or something like this. Okay, sort of breathing, but I'm gonna not gonna do that. So, idle keyframe. Now, because it is idle, I want it to sort of yeah, sort of shake the bum a little bit like that. Okay, so what I want to do is to add keyframes for all of these, because I'm not only moving this. When I move this, see, everything moves together. That's why I want to include all keyframes. And the way to include keyframes, if you click on any object, is to press I, and don't click anything yet. You press I, and you can see you can insert keyframe for location, rotation, scaling. We're not really scaling a lot, but we are actually moving the location and rotating it slightly. So, but we can always add the whole thing. Okay, so look, okay, when I move it, it is sort of moving slightly. Okay, it may rotate slightly, some of them. So what we're going to do is to include, I'm going to press A to select all the bones, and press I, and include all keyframes, okay, for all the bones. Okay, look, okay, so that's normal. I'm going to move this sort of to and this animation is, let's have a look. This animation is 24 frames per second. So in 24 seconds, okay, so in 24 frames, I can actually change this here. Okay, 24 right here. Okay, this is 1 second. Okay, in 1 second it's going to go from here to here. Okay, so but I want it to be a bit slower, so I'm going to put 48. So sort of 2 seconds for it to wobble around. Okay, so in frame 48, I'm going to move this thing slightly to the left. Okay, and I'm going to have to select everything because it's moving everything, and including inserting that. So now look, it's moving. Okay, it's moving from here to here. Oh, okay. And it's gonna move back. Okay, from here to here, and it's gonna move. I want it to move back, and I want it to move the other direction. So what I want to do is to select this. Okay, pressing right mouse. Okay, selecting this, press Shift D, and sort of move this to the I'm on the 25th frame. That's the 50th frame. Okay, I'm gonna sort of move it here. So this is what, okay, okay, this is on the 48th frame. So what I want to do is to, okay, well, move it. Well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's nice. Okay, so it's moving from here to here, and then actually going back, because this keyframe is the same as that keyframe, so it's going back to its original location. And I'm going to copy this. Select this top node, press Shift D, and move it so that it appears to be, okay. Oh, right, okay, so it's moving back. No, I don't want that. I'm going to select this, press delete, and in this keyframe, okay, right here, 149, I am going to move this slightly to the right. Okay, so it's sort of wobbly, and selecting all, press A, press I to include the scale. So it's sort of moving here, and then it's moved back, it's moving here, and then we want it to move back again. So we're going to select this, press Shift D, and move it right here. So it's sort of shaking the bum, okay, from here to here to here to here to here, and then going back. Okay, so that's the first action. First action is created. Okay, the idle mode. Now what we want to do is to actually create another action. Okay, create an action by pressing this, clicking on this button, and renaming it to done. Okay, we're going to let it really move now, you know, maybe the Harlem Shake or something, or Gangnam Style. But now you have two actions, okay? You have the idle, you have the dance, okay? In the dance panel, you see everything's been copied. So what we're going to do is to press A, you know, move your mouse around this and then press A, you can select everything, delete, and we want it to start afresh, okay? So look, we've got the idle, okay, and that's really nice, okay, and we have the dance, okay, which has nothing. So the same thing, okay, same principle, we're going to press A, press I, and include all the keyframes, okay? So it's starting from scratch. Now we're going to just, you know, sort of creating animation, you know, some funny animation that we can play around with, maybe with the head first, okay? Okay, so it's gonna move here, okay, press I, include, oh, I'm sorry, you know, select all, press I, and include that, okay? So that's it, okay? And we want, I'm gonna just copy this, so it's sort of doing that and going back, okay? Now we want, over here we want this head to now move this side, and I'm going to select all, insert, okay, so it's moving here and then, you know, moving that, okay? So it's sort of, it's dancing slightly, it's dancing, but we want it to be crazy, we want it to be crazier. So at a certain point, okay, at a certain point around here, we want to move this, okay, we want to move this, and select all, okay, and around here we want to move this okay, up, and I'm going to select all and insert key. So look, it's, you know, I don't know, is that a Harlem Shake? No. Okay, so well, that's really simple. We could have done a lot more, but I'm going to save time by just having this done, okay? So this done. So in the first animation we've got idle, and that's really nice, okay? In the second action we have the dance, and that's good, that's good. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to export. So let's remove the camera first because we don't need it. Remove the light source because we don't need it, okay? And I'm going to save this and export it as an FBX file, okay? FBX file. So just export it, okay? I'm going to, you know, when we export something, we want to export it into the assets folder of your Unity assets folder, not anything outside, okay? And I've already pre-created the imported folder, so I'm going to go in and just export this dummy as an FBX file, okay, with all the information we created into it, okay? So now it's exported, and we can really go on to Unity to see what we can do with the two animation, okay? So we've got two animation, okay, idle or dance, okay? You can create more if you want and start afresh, okay? It's good. I'm going to just save this again. So now we are in the Unity Games Engine, and you know, creating projects is the same thing. We've got this scene which we are in right now, and it's called Tower. You could easily change this to dummy scene, okay? So okay, this is the scene right here, okay? Now I have a split view, so you can always drag this back, but it doesn't matter, so we can see both sides. Now we've got our camera here, and as long as we can double click the camera, we can go to where the camera is, you know, looking through the camera's viewport. Notice that in my imported folder where I exported Blender earlier, I've got my dummy now, okay, imported, okay? It's looking flat because there's no texture. Now remember the scale factor, we're gonna have to change this to 1, so it's, you know, it's the right size we want it to, and we're going to apply it. Okay, so we've got our dummy right here, but we want the dummy to sit on a platform, so we're going to just go create a cube. Okay, and that's fine. The cube's position is right. Okay, 0, 1 near the camera, and I'm going to press this button and scale it flat, and click this and scale it right up. Okay, what if we look through the camera? Okay, well, that means that we can have to change this to 0. Okay, that's the cube, and I'm changing the z-axis to 0, so we can actually see it through the camera. Okay, through the camera. I'm panning using the scroll button. Okay, now this thing. So I'm gonna press right mouse key, and so it is viewing it through there. I'm gonna just move this camera up. Okay, move this camera up and sort of rotate it. You know, press R is rotate, E is rotate, W is move, E on the keyboard. Okay, so this tree allows me to have quick shortcuts. W, E, and R. Okay, E is rotate. So I'm going to just rotate this slightly, and it sort of looks down. And I want to create a light source because we can't see anything without the light. So I'm going to create a sort of directional light. Okay, directional light, pointing. Okay, oh, that's fine. That's okay. Okay, so the next thing is to drag this dummy. Okay, this dummy, I'm going to just click and drag it right into my platform. My camera is not looking because it's really big. Okay, you can scale it down, but I'm just going to bring the camera up and out. Okay, so we see this thing. I'm going to just sort of also, you know, increase the platform slightly. Okay, so we're looking through the camera viewport. Okay, looking at this character. Now, you know, nothing's been set up yet, but you can already see that you have two actions with a default action, so idle and dance, already in your element of the animation panel. So this is really this object. Okay, I'm selecting this. I'm selecting the dummy, and it, you know, and opening this, and it's showing, okay, all the actions that you've created. And if I play it right now, okay, it's going to play the idle animation, right? Okay, idle animation, shaking the bum, but only once, because you know it's not set up for looping. So for an animation like that, okay, we have to use scripting to change the animation, and I'm going to just show you how it's done through an earlier script. So tower script, I've got an animation wrap mode and animation.play action. Okay, and you know, but we're going to just create. Let's create a C# script. Okay, inside the scripts folder, create a C# script. I'm going to name it dummy script. Okay, and that sets the behavior of the dummy. Okay, so I'm going to create it, and it's taking a long time. Okay, it's been created. Now I want to open it. Okay, or double clicking this will open it, and it will open Unity's scripting editor, and we're going to start creating some actions for it. It's just taking a long time. Okay, here it comes. Right, it's called the mono develop. It's sufficient as a simple programming, but you know, Visual Studio is much better. That's the tower script, okay, which we don't want, but it's good to see the reference. But let's go to the dummy script. So dummy script will need to be attached to the dummy character later, but as a start we want to set the animation mode. Okay, animation dot rub mode. Okay, and that basically sets the behavior, okay, of rub mode. And I want rub mode, the dot means that there's something inside. Okay, do you want to clamp it or loop it, or ping pong, go once and back and stop, or just once. I want to loop this animation. Okay, and this is the animation associated with the dummy. If we attach this script to a tower or any of the other things else, it's gonna, animation is gonna point to the, any object you attach it to. Okay, it has a property. So that's animation loop mode, and when it updates, every time it updates, I'm going to play the animation. So animation.play, and what do I want to play? What do I want to play? I want to play idle. Okay, I don't like this space here. Okay, so this is now created, so I want it to play idle, or you could change it to dance. Okay, I'll save this and go back to Unity. Now I have my dummy script, okay, all updated, say loop mode and animation.play. So I'm going to just drag this to dummy. Okay, not armature, not bow, not cube, but dummy. Okay, that's the hierarchy, what's stored inside dummy. So I'm going to drag a dummy. If you click dummy now, you can see that I have my script attached to it. You can drag a lot of scripts, and it will just add up. But with my dummy script added, when I play this time, okay, it's going this direction. There's one cycle, and it's going back. Okay, because we have the script attached to it, it's going to keep playing in a loop mode. Okay, now what if we change it to dance? Save it. Okay, make sure you save it. Okay, I've just Control S to save it. Go back to Unity and play it. Okay, it's going to play the Harlem Shake, the dance. Okay, look, okay, it's not smooth here and it snaps back because in our Blender animation we didn't really create it properly, but we can change that later. Now there's no way for you to control which animation outside of the script file, so it's really easier if I have a public variable, a string variable describing what I'm going to play, action. Okay, and I want my action to be idle as a default, so I'm going to save this, Control S, save this, and I want to change this to action so it points to it. Okay, so anytime I can change that, it will change it. Go back and okay, and look, the action is idle. Anything that you put as a public will show here. Okay, so if I change, if this is idle and this is also idle, so when I play it, okay, and if I change this, it will change it. Okay, if I change it back, it will change it. Okay, but this is not the best way, of course, to create a character where you have to control through text. It's usually associated with, in the update, if you want artificial intelligence included, then maybe this dummy will track your avatar moving. If it's too close, it will get into action. If it's too far away, it will play the idle mode. But this is out of the topic, okay, for this animation. Let's try to change Blender change the done sequence, so from here to here, and then it's there. So we want it really to move back. I'm going to select that, press Shift D, and have it move back so it's not snapping back, and that's fine. I'm going to just save this and export it again. See how easy it is, how seamless it is. okay, to change things from Blender to, it's been exported to Blender to Unity. So when we get back to Unity, okay, and if we play the dance, it's going to go back, and that's really smooth. Okay, I hope you have learned something new, and subscribe, comment, like my video, and I shall see you again.